Hello and welcome back to another segment of Mr. Kent Hovind's doctoral dissertation. Today, page 67. Don't fall for the statement that evolution is a proven fact. It is absolutely not. It is their religion versus my religion. I will quickly admit that what I have is faith. I cannot prove creation and you cannot prove evolution. If we approach it on the common ground that both ideas are religious, it will make a lot more sense. It is not science versus religion. Don't let them use that phrase when they talk about the controversy of creation versus evolution. It is not science versus religion. It is religion versus religion. Both of them are simply religious beliefs. The effect of these religious beliefs has always been of interest to me. If we teach our kids in public schools that they are merely animals, then they will act like animals. We should not be surprised. If we teach kids in school that they are a creation of God, that God is their creator, and will someday be their judge, we can expect their behavior to be different because of their basic philosophy. The teaching of evolution is important because, number one, it affects our society. Many people down through history in the name of evolution have had some dramatic effects on our society. Adolf Hitler, for instance, was an avid evolutionist. In order to comprehend Hitler's reasoning, one must go back to evolution to understand why he did the things that he did and thought the way he thought. Hitler slaughtered the Jews and hated the blacks because he was an evolutionist. He thought it was his duty to aid evolution in improving the human race. He taught and believed that each of the different races in the world were actually different species of man, and that it was the job of the superior species, Germany, to annihilate the inferior species. In the name of evolution, Hitler closed down the Christian schools in Germany in the early 1930s. He began indoctrinating the people heavily with the idea of the German superior race, saying because of evolution they had evolved further and it was their duty to rule the world. Let me give you a quote here. Sir Arthur Keith, in his book Evolution and Ethics, 1947, page 10, said, "The leader of Germany is an evolutionist, not only in theory, but as millions know to their coats, right in the rigor of its practice. For him, the national front of Europe is only the evolutionary front. He regards himself and is regarded as the incarnation of the will of Germany, the purpose of that will being to guide the evolutionary destiny of its people." Hitler was an evolutionist, and it was the crazy doctrine of evolution that is fundamentally responsible for World War II. In Japan, the same thing was going on with the Shinto religion. This teaches that the Japanese people were evolved from gods, and it was their destiny to rule the world. Japan and Germany got together, and we had an awful time in World War II. Yes, the controversy and debate of evolution and creation has a tremendous influence on our society. Joseph Stalin was another evolutionist. I quote here from the Impact article published by the Institute for Creation Research in El Cajon, California, October 1987. Impact article number 172, entitled Stalin's Brutal Faith. One of the men that had a profound impact on Joseph Stalin was just a young person, was the man Charles Darwin in his book, The Origin of Species. At a very early age, while still a pupil in the ecclesiastical school, Comrade Stalin developed a critical mind and revolutionary sentiments. He began to read Darwin and became an atheist. J. Glordersky, a friend of Stalin's, relates, "I began to speak of God. Joseph heard me out, and after a moment of silence said, 'You know, they are fooling us. There is no God.' I was astonished at these words. I had never heard anything like it before. 'How can you say such things so?' I exclaimed. 'I'll lend you a book to read. It will show you that the world and all the living things are quite different from what you imagined, and you will see all of this talk about God is sheer nonsense,' Joseph said. 'What book is that?' I inquired. 'Darwin. You must read it.' Joseph impressed on me. A few pages later, another individual was reflecting on Stalin's youthful pursuits. He added the following, "In order to disabuse the minds of our seminary students of the myth that the world was created in 6 days, we had to acquaint ourselves with the geological origin and the age of the earth and be able to prove them in an argument. we had to familiarize ourselves with Darwin's writings. Joseph Stalin, in the name of evolution to help purify the Russian race, was responsible for killing 60 million of his own people during his reign of terror. We are still digging up mass graves of people that were slaughtered by Stalin. Communism also has its roots in evolution. Let me quote some more here from the Impact article 172, Stalin's Brutal Faith. As early as December 12, 1859, only 2 months after The Origin of Species was published, Frederick Engels wrote to Karl Marx, "Darwin, whom I am now just reading, is splendid." About a year later, on December 19, 1860, Karl Marx, the father of communism, responded, "During my time of trial these last few weeks, I have read all sorts of things, among others, Darwin's Book of Natural Selection. Although it is developed in the crude English style, this book, which contains the basis in natural history for our view." To one Ferdinand Lassalle he wrote on January 16, 1861, quote, "Darwin's book is very important and serves me as the basis in natural science for the class struggle in history," end quote. Zirkel that Marx wanted to dedicate Das Kapital to Darwin. Harvard's Stephen Jay Gould, an intense and modern spokesman for evolution, corroborates that he saw Darwin's copy of Marx's first copy inscribed by Marx, describing himself as a sincere admirer of the English naturalist Darwin. Someone credits Vladimir Lenin with the following commentary on Darwin, quote, "Darwin put an end to the belief that the animal-vegetable species bear no relation to one another except by chance, and that they were created by God and are hence immutable," end quote. Communism has its roots in evolution. The effects that evolution has had on our society, just with the three I've mentioned here, Hitler, Stalin, and communism, are incredible. The human lives that have been lost cannot be calculated, nor can the money that has been spent fighting communism and Nazism be calculated. It staggers the imagination to think of the effects that evolution has had on our society. Creation versus evolution is an extremely important discussion and debate. We are setting the trap for young people by teaching them evolution in school. We are destroying our own future by presenting this ridiculous doctrine as scientific fact. The effect on society alone is tremendous. The philosophy of origins that a person chooses also has an effect on many other decisions he or she makes. The people that are divided on whether they believe that abortion is right or wrong are generally divided into the same groups that form over the issue of creation and evolution. If a person believes that we are a creation of God, then of course abortion is wrong. If a person believes that evolution is true and that we just evolved with blind chance, then abortion would be fine. The abortion issue really needs to be argued on creation-evolution ground first. The same could be said for many other issues of life like euthanasia, drugs, teen sex, homosexuality, etc. Secondly, I think evolution not only affects our society, it affects our modern science. One of the things that we try to teach students is what is called the scientific method. There are basically 4 steps involved in the scientific method. Observation, experimentation, classification of data, and conclusion. It is extremely important that scientists learn to use the scientific method, particularly observation and experimentation. They need to learn how to be good scientists. We take our science classes and try to teach them the unobservable thing of evolution. Evolution has never been observed in the present. It has never been observed in the past. There is no record in the fossil record for evolution. There is no observation for this doctrine, and it does not belong in science. It is a part of religion. There is no experimentation for evolution. Do they have an experiment? Show me evolution happening. So all they have been able to show so far are genetic changes that have been general and neutral and negative. There has never been an increase in genetic matter or genetic structure. When we continue fruit fly experiments,